What's going on, people? This is your man, Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying, where if you're going to complain, you better bring some solutions to the table. And before we get started, I always start out with my segment, What the hell is Derek complaining about now? Not much today, but I want to talk about where in Maryland and some other states, there are some people that are appalled and downright irate that state, local, or federal government will have the audacity to suggest or mandate the wearing of masks to combat COVID-19. But yet, these governments have already mandated the following. So let's think about this. Wearing a seatbelt in your car, wearing a helmet when riding your bicycle or motorcycle, setting speed limits for driving your moving motorized vehicle, putting your baby or child in a car seat, submitting to an intimate scan and pat down at airport security checks, no smoking of your legal tobacco products, which are not allowed in malls, restaurants, teacher lounges, or within 6 to 10 feet of entrances to establishments. But you're tripping over a freaking mask that will not only save your life, but others. Really? I mean, really. Let's remember to social distance, wash our hands, look out for one another, and please, 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 people, wear the damn mask. Okay, so now on tonight's show, we're going to be discussing the topic, so you want my child to go back to Corona school. Really? Kind of catchy. It's understandable that many parents are highly reluctant to send their children back to school due to COVID-19, the uncertainty of it, as well as potential health risk. It is also understandable that the way that we view education is not going to be the same. We're going to have to learn to adapt. And what will it look like if kids go back to school? Will it be virtual, online, in person, a combination of them all? We simply don't know. But I will give school districts props because they're on this every day and they're trying to do the best in these unprecedented times to do what's best for the kids. However, as parents, our first priority is the safety and well-being of our own children. And today we have, and let me bring her in here real quick. We have a special guest, and we actually have two special guests. But right now we have Miss Christina Sterling, who is going to share her concerns about her child's possibility of starting school in this Corona school environment. So how you doing there, Christina?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and thank you for coming on the show. And how's everything just in general been with dealing with COVID-19? How's it been around the house?
It's been busy. Just trying to balance school and keeping a child entertained in this season when they want to play with their friends and go outside, and you're trying to work and handle your job. It's been busy, but also the plus side, it's been a wonderful experience being home as much, being able to spend that much time with my daughter has been a great benefit. It's been a challenge.
Now, speaking of your little princess, what grade will she be going in? Well, as we enter the fall, what grade will she be going into?
She is actually going to be in pre-K 4. So she'll be in pre-K 4, and they will be in an all-day, everyday program, technically is what it's supposed to be. So very close to kindergarten, but yeah, that's what she'll be doing.
Okay, now as we look at COVID-19, and we know that's the medical term, and my little goddaughter, she calls it, the coronavirus, like most people call it. Mm-hmm. What have you done, as a parent to prepare your child for the possibility of going to school with really, I seriously doubt we're going to have a vaccine by then. What have you done to try to prepare your daughter for this?
So trying to explain it to her the best way I can, to let her understand, I call it the virus, that there's a virus going on that's been making a lot of people sick. So that's why we can't, play with our friends the same way. We can't go to the playground. We can't, go to all the different activities she used to go into, dance class and going to school and even going to church. We couldn't, do that while she has to wear a mask in public. So just trying to explain those things to her, and then letting her know that, if school is open, if they present an option that makes me comfortable, that makes sense, you probably will have to wear your mask to school. You'll have to be careful not to touch your friends as much and, kind of be apart from them. And she's like, why? They're my friends. So trying to get a 5-year-old to understand that is tough.
Yeah, and believe me, I have a 13-year-old, trying to get a 13-year-old to realize that is tough. And my daughter, she's going into her senior year of college, and that can be tough too, but she's a little bit more, responsible. But when you look at COVID-19 and the possibility of going back to school, if they open pretty much in the normal way, would you have any, fear or, well, put it like this: if when you look at COVID-19, you really don't know if someone has it unless you actually test them. I'm saying you can take all the temperatures in the world you want, unless you take that. And I've had this thing, believe me, it's about this long, goes all near your brain. Well, it may go in the brain. I don't even know. I know it went far. How do you feel as a parent with that uncertainty and whether or not a child coming in has COVID or not? And then every day have to, wonder, if your daughter all of a sudden got a temperature, would you treat it the same?
Right. That is a huge concern for me, because just there's so much uncertainty with studies saying, the possibility that people can be asymptomatic and they could be walking around as carriers and you have no idea. And like you said, we don't know until the person is tested what they really had. So that is a big concern for me. Trying to get kids to wash their hands and not sneeze on each other, not cough on each other is hard enough in flu season. So imagine it even in this, when they don't have a handle, they don't have a vaccine, they have no way to really prevent it. That is a huge concern for me. So if the schools were to just open as normal, I am fully prepared to possibly homeschool my child, at least the remainder of the year, until they try to figure out something more in place, or there's some level of development or reduction in the cases that are happening of COVID-19.
Yeah, I have the strong sense that at least Maryland schools will not open up as normal. I'm originally from down south, and I know some of the southern schools. Well, I'm hoping reality is kicking in now that you can't not open up as normal. But what if, like, your child, and like all the parents know their children. So do you think that it would be difficult for your daughter to practice social distancing once she's surrounded? Because right now she's not been around kids. All of a sudden, oh my God, these kids! And do you think how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, she's not going to. She will not. Like you said, she has not been around children. And she's an only child. So the thought of her being able to see her friends and not being able to hug them, no. She's not going to understand why she can't hug them, why they can't play together, why they can't hold hands and run around. Like, she's not going to understand that, no matter how much I try to let her know the virus. It's the same as reminding, kids to use a napkin when they're eating, or to, brush your teeth before you go to bed. Like, that same habit building that you have to give them, it's going to be that with her. She's not going to. It's just at that age, they don't get it enough to really exhibit it. As adults, people are not even doing it. So I don't know how, we can expect children to really get that concept when grown people are not social distancing and grown people are not adhering.
Yeah, and it seems like it's, teachers have a lot of, of obvious, they have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to the teaching component, but also is that classroom management. And they're
Yeah.
already giving them, the basic norms of how to come into class. And now they have to be the social distance police. Don't touch each other. Don't touch each other.
Absolutely.
And in this day and age, especially around, 5, 6 years old, when there's something wrong, like they're crying, it's natural to comfort and say, hey, it'll be okay. And,
Exactly.
or kids, it's your birthday and things like that. So, and within your neighborhood, are there older kids that live in a neighborhood? And if so, do you worry about the potential spread, not only in the school, but in your neighborhood? Because if they're going to school, they say, well, hey, I guess we can come outside.
Exactly. Definitely. There's a lot of teenagers, a lot of older elementary school age children in our neighborhood, and there's a few right on our actual street. And so that is something to think about. Like, even in this season, our neighbor's child has a basketball court, and that is the meetup spot. So even in this season of Corona, there are neighborhood kids meeting at our next door neighbor's basketball court. And I'm constantly saying, no, you can't run over there and play with them because, of the virus. And she's like, but I don't understand. Friends are having fun. They're playing. So, yeah, that's a concern.
Yeah, because I know, and like I said, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just throw a number out there. If you have 100 people, and out of the 100 people, they're saying maybe 2% get this, or maybe asymptomatic, then they're, for every classroom, to some degree, being guaranteed at least one person has it and doesn't even know it. So when you look at that part of it and the possibility of going back to school, let's say, friends, you know what? I just can't have my child. And I see her in the background. I saw her.
You see her in the background. This is how you say hi.
Hello.
Okay.
But, not going to school and say they have to stay home. When you look at the academic and the social progression, do you feel that would put, right now she's 5, right? So there's a lot of things that you literally cannot learn unless you're in the classroom.
Yes.
So what do you think are going to be some drawbacks if you say, you know what, I have to look at her health. I just can't put her in right now.
So the biggest thing I'm concerned about is the social interaction piece, that I can't get her at home as the only child. So, and that comes a lot. That's the piece that you learn in school of, you can consistently remember to play nice with friends, remember to do all of those things. But when you're the only child and it's your stuff and you don't really have to share your stuff, that's a hard concept to teach a child. And so those are the concerns that social interaction and social maturity that comes with them going to school, especially at that age, is my concern. Academically, I'm not concerned because she's progressed and learned so much in this season being out, that I'm not concerned that she'll lack academically, but it's more so just the social aspects of being around children and the social cues and social norms that she needs to learn, that it's hard for mommy to teach when mommy's working and you're the only child. So
yeah, because there's those, and I can't remember when I was in school at that age, and I didn't teach that age, but what I remember from observing some classrooms is, you have basic things like walking in a straight line, being quiet, cleaning up after yourself, eating, and sometimes the proper way of eating without making a mess. You got bathroom time. So let's say that, okay, she goes to school. What of all, I'm trying to think how I can phrase it. Let's say, for instance, she goes to school and boom, somebody gets sick. Has your school given you some type of contingency plan or a plan of how they would do things if school was to reopen?
No. So they sent out surveys to kind of gather ideas or the thoughts of the parents of what they would prefer. So they've thrown out some options like, possibly going to school 3 days a week, or, the kids only come to school for their core subjects and they do all of their special subjects like music and PE and things at home. But they have not rolled out any level of contingency plan. Like, this is what, we'll plan to do if a faculty member happens to contract COVID, even a parent volunteer, or will they allow parent volunteers? So there's a lot of questions on the table that as parents, we don't know. And I honestly don't think the school knows, because they've been out this entire time. And I don't think they've considered what all of that stuff would look like.
Okay. And just for the record, for the viewers, Miss Sterling's daughter, she attends school in Charles County, but not with Charles County Public Schools. Because I do know that Charles County Public Schools has developed some sort of plan. It hasn't been voted on anything like that, but it does provide for some foundation, or and I'm not necessarily say it's solid, but it's something that's there, and they're still working through it. So I'm not sure when this show will air, but I'm hoping by the time it does air that your school, as well as Charles County Public Schools, would have developed, and actually all the school systems would have developed some type of a reopening plan. But we have to track the data, and we have to look at how this goes, how this moves forward. So before we close out, I wanted to know, what is your personal opinion, just in general, about parents that are not being responsible when it comes to making sure their kids wear masks and social distance? What is your personal, what would you say to them?
It's not about just you or your child's comfortability or your opinion of what's happening. You are affecting lives. And so think of people other than yourself, and protect your child. Protect your child. You may think my child is healthy. They haven't been exposed to anything, but you don't know. If you're not making your child wear a mask, if you're not making your child socially distance, you don't know what those other children have been. You don't know what those other children's parents have been. You just don't know. So you may not be as concerned about yourself getting infected or your child getting infected, but be conscious of other people that your child is coming in contact with, kids who, may not have the best immune systems, their families, older parents, grandparents, all those things. So just be responsible. It's your duty as a parent to teach your child how to follow rules. And when you don't follow the rules and you don't make them follow the rules, then they become adults who don't follow rules, and the cycle continues. So just learn, just be responsible. Be responsible.
And I definitely agree with you 100%. So Ms. Sterling, definitely appreciate you coming on the show. We will be following the progress of what's going on, as we all will, for those who have kids going to school. And, we wish little Princess the best of luck, regardless of what she does. And I know lively she is eager and willing and ready to go. And you probably read for Hooker too. So,
exactly.
But once again, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll definitely be in touch.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So next we have, our next guest is Mr. Darrell Gray. So I'm going to bring him on. And bear with me with technology. All right, there we go. So welcome to the show, Mr. Darrell Gray. And for those who don't know, he's my fraternity brother. So I may say Brother Gray. So if I say that, don't take it the wrong way. We fraternity brothers. But welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for having me on.
So we just had we had another guest, Miss Christina Sterling. She had a daughter who's going into pre-K. So we were talking about, just basically her concerns and how she feels about, going back to what we call the Corona school, because that's really, it may be a wrong thing to say, but that's what we live in right now. So,
Yeah.
So with you, what grades are your children going into this year?
So I have 3 kids. So I have a 12th grader, an 8th grader, and a 3rd grader. So I'm kind of hitting all levels there. But and so the 12th grader is, I think the 3rd grader is pretty kind of, he wants to play with his friends, but he kind of, it's in 3rd grade. He as long as he can have fun wherever he's doing, he's okay. 12th grader is like driving me crazy. He wants to get into school, plays, the sports and things come in the picture there as well. So I mean, he really, really wants to get, and then he's just in, in 12th grade, 11th grade year, you want to go out with your friends. So it's real. I think it's real tough for him. And I hope in the long run, I think socially, this is kind of causing some issues for some of our kids as well. So.
Yeah, and I know, like with my son, he's 13. As long as he got his Xbox, he's good. But I know, as he's not in high school, and and you do want to be active, and you do want to be social, because like you have a breakdown. You got elementary, middle, and high school. So let's start with elementary. What have you said or done to prepare your elementary, the one that's elementary, for possibly going back?
So I mean, with us primarily, and it's the summer thing. I mean, because it's summertime, this is something we do all the time. I got workbooks. We get them. I'll go buy them books, and we're kind of just ramping them up to the things that I know he'll be jumping up to next year. So the books got a little bit harder. We got a couple workbooks so we can do math and science. And I mean, I don't love the fact about what's going on in society, but it's been a great opportunity to kind of talk history with them. So even though, things are going on now, we can go into history about what happened and why, so I think it's been a great opportunity for that.
Okay. And your eighth grader, you say 8th grade, right?
Yeah, 8th grade.
So your 8th grade, preparing for that last year of middle school. How's that been going?
That was pretty much the same for her. With her, it's been more. I'm buying her different kinds of books that I know she really didn't get a chance to read in school. I kind of really want to get her more involved. Well, not involved, but at least looking at what's going on in society to kind of just be conscious about what's happening. So I try to watch different things with her, and just kind of see what they are. 'Cause 13, 12 is such a weird age. So much stuff is changing.
Believe me, I know. and I know for you, the one who's a senior, it's I can't, it hurts to know that there's a possibility that they may not get a chance to do a homecoming dance or a prom. I'm hoping they do. The seniors that just graduated, they didn't get a formal graduation. You won't get that back. I don't care how you try to recreate it. You can't recreate the past. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So with your son, he plays a sport, right?
Yeah, he plays football.
So how is he mentally and physically preparing for something that might or might not be there?
Physically, I mean, we still work out. We have weights, and he still lift weights and things. We're not really going to, organized workouts. It's no 7-on-7, nothing like that. But he goes jogging. He goes, he lift weights. Honestly, I talked to him, and I told him there's a probably an 80% chance that you will not be playing football this year. And if he does, great. But I want him to be kind of, to have that understanding. It's let's get this out of the way now and have that understanding. I'm hoping that even if they don't plan in fall, maybe they can do something in spring. But that's gonna be tough. And that's just tough. Going in your senior year, for a lot of this may or may not be his last year playing football, organized football. So
yeah, and I can, as a student athlete who went, had to show went to Towson, there was, and it was only a 2-week period where I was injured and I couldn't participate. And it was, mentally, it was hard to deal with. Now you're talking about a situation where the kids are healthy physically, but because of potential health risk, they can't play. And it's hard for them to understand. Well, we'll be all right, because I have a friend whose son, and I thought it was something from last year, but it was this year in Georgia. I believe they won some tournament. I'm like, they playing basketball still, right? I thought
they're having track meets.
And I was like, wow. So I'm praying and hoping that no one was infected, but that's a risk. And then it's,
I see the AU tournaments, and I'm like, I don't know if I still be playing basketball. Track meets, I wouldn't be doing track meets, but they're still doing track meets as well. I guess the tough part with my oldest son is that you tell a kid, hey, you work hard, you put in your time, you wait your turn. Well, now your turn comes up, and they're like, what?
And it's not like you can redshirt your senior year of high school.
He asked me that. I was like, well, can we play? I said, dude, after high school, we going to college or something. We doing something.
So do you, and like I said, you could break it down into the grades, but do you think it'd be difficult if they're allowed to go back in some type of way, whether it's full-time or part of time, whatever it may be? Do you think it would be difficult for your children to wear their mask all the time and to social distance?
Yeah, I do. I mean, honestly, I think that the oldest ones have probably had the worst problem with it. Because I mean, one, they're just cocky, like they feel like they're untouchable and nothing's going to harm them. A lot of them really still don't understand how serious this thing is. They think it's kind of being overblown. The younger kids, look, man, they never going to keep their hands off each other. That's what they do. They want to play, and they want to roughhouse. Especially, I got my third grade is a boy, so he wants to roughhouse. He wants to play, wrestling and all that kind of stuff. I'm just thinking back when I was in high school, in middle school, just silly things like sharing, like, oh, you got something to drink? Let me get some of your drink. Things like that. It's you don't think much of it. It's kind of hard to stop, so I think it's going to be really tough. And so I mean, if they're in school, I think teachers will spend a lot of time trying to police behavior even more now.
Now they got to be the social distance police,
right?
The no mask police, and
like they didn't have enough to do already.
Yeah, and can you really suspend or give a kid detention? Now you can't put them in school suspension, because now you got 50 kids in there for no mask. So it's it's a difficult task for the teachers, a difficult task for anybody. So when you look at the possibility of, we'll say, not having the kids go back to school, you look at your third grader. Academically, you may feel all of them are where they should be, but there's a social component, whether it's conflict resolution, teamwork. Do you feel that by them not being in school, that one of them will lose out on something, because you can't get that time back? That's unfortunate. You can't get that time back.
So, I mean, hopefully, I'm a little bit of an optimist here, and I'm hoping that the remote programs will actually kind of enforce better communication with the kids and more teamwork. I mean, with a third grader, not so much, right? But even with teams, like even the past quarter they just did, he had teams, and he'd get on and they talk. Him and his friends would talk. So I think that was good for his social development. But my 8th grader and my 12th grader, I think, because if they're going to do remote work, there should be a lot more collaboration. There should be a lot more teamwork, and you kind of, because they're distant, you're forced to kind of work together. So I'm hoping it'll actually improve communication, and that may just be wishful thinking.
All right. Well, speaking of communication, Yesterday, Charles County Public Schools, they had a town hall.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't on the town hall, but I was able to get the survey response, and they
Mm-hmm.
put out a survey, I believe, on June 23rd. Quick, very quick turnaround. I don't know why the turnaround was so quick. I think it should have been spread out over 2 weeks, but I don't know. So what I'm
Well,
going
I've
to
been
do,
told it's statistical reasons of why the quick turnaround, and it's understandable.
but what I don't know is what the actual response rate was. I tried to contact um, someone from the school board, but they may not be able to get it to me in time, which is fine. But what I mean by response, I don't know, let's just say there's 30,000 people that they emailed,
Right.
9,000 responded, then you look at the response rate, it's less than 50, way less than 50%. So what I want to do is bring up what I do with it. Okay, this is not, hold up for a second.
While you look at that, I'll talk about that. I mean, I'm not sure how many parents we have in Charles County, but there were about 9,000. They said were 9,000 responses, which I thought was extremely low.
Yeah, I did too myself. Hold on for 1 second. I'm trying to bring up now, while I'm trying to bring this up, a question I do have is, what do you feel would be the best option in regards to, well, put it like this. Do you think the extracurricular activities or sports will happen? And if they could happen, how do you think they best could happen?
For most sports, I want to say no. Tennis, you can do it, right? Tennis will be fine. Something like golf, fine. Cross country, I'm kind of teeter-tottering on that because I mean, that's kind of tough too, right? That'd be tough to do. Definitely not football, definitely not basketball, soccer, cross, none of those sports. So I just don't think, I think this year, as far as sports, at least in the winter and fall, as far as sports are concerned, it's going to be a wash. Maybe, if we do this right, we can kind of get back in the spring and you can have, some of those sports kind of come in and they can actually have a season.
All right, let me see if I can bring this up now. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so this is from the town hall. I'm not going to touch a lot on this, but I wanted to go through some key things. This was the parent survey, and this is what we were talking about with roughly almost 9,300, where, gives you a breakdown of, the types of respondents, those with one child, two children, or three or more. But where I wanted to look at was right here. This is really important. Now, although it it's not reflective of the total parent population as far as Charles County Public Schools students, but when you look at it, they're kind of split when it comes to coming back to school at all and coming back as far as with some limitations. And you got some of this perfectly fine. Don't matter. Yeah, we cool. We can come back. We'll leave that one alone. I'm not gonna focus on the ones that are comfortable with the children returning with no. When I look at that, I think with no limitations, or they want to come back like it's normal. And I just don't see us getting back to normal by September, especially without a vaccine.
Right.
So
right.
What's your take when you look at these two right here, the 3511 and the 3405? Do you think that's a fair analysis?
I think it's fair. I know you said you didn't want to talk about those ones that come.
We can. I'm saying you can. I guess I don't know the rationale behind
is, yeah, it's kind of tough, right? How many of those who are comfortable with their kids returning are comfortable because they have no choice? Because they got to go to work and they don't have daycare. So, I mean, I don't have a choice about whether, so yeah, I need my kids to go back to school. But I won't say they don't have a choice, but I mean, in order for them to keep their lifestyle, they need to have their kids in school. I mean, I know plenty of people who, I mean, some of the jobs are already starting to go back.
And in some cases, this is where it's a safe haven for kids. Mm-hmm. They're getting at least 2 meals, some maybe 3. Right. So yeah, I can understand that. I didn't see I was trying to figure out the nuts.
And it didn't really go into it, but I mean, and I might be totally off, but that's just what I think about when I see that. There's some of those who really, they're in a tough place. So that's a hard decision to make.
And this particular one that, it kind of stood out for me, what are the 5 factors that will influence your decision? And, the main one was cleaning and sanitizing protocols in place. Mm-hmm. And then the health needs of the children, level restrictions, social distancing. For this one, like I said, this is a survey based on people's opinions. My main priority be first, social distancing and mask. That's the first thing for me. Because if you can't do that, I don't care how much you sanitize.
Right.
I'm saying sanitizer's not going to stop my breath from coming into, it's not like I can inject myself. Shouldn't do that. Well, but you can't, so, but like I said, this is just a poll based on people's opinions. My number one was the social distance. That was mine, making sure that they kept that but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, for me, the vaccine was a thing because, I mean, if they're in school, you're sharing air, right? Yeah. It's no way to get around that. You're using that same system. So, I mean, even with the distancing, that's something that, I mean, you got to take in consideration. So that was my worry, was that, I mean, how can they really get around that? I mean, how can you really, protect from it?
Yeah, so I think the options that they had talked about was the distance learning option, where that could be a 100% for those who wanted to have their child partake in that. You have coming to school 2 to 3 days a week, and then doing some distance learning. And then
I really didn't like that one.
And why didn't you like that one?
Well, there's no, so if our issue is we don't want the kids to come to school, we want to try to have some kind of separation and increase the distancing. I don't want you to come 2 or 3 times a week, and then like right after you, there's going to be another group of kids, and they were kind of alternating. So it was kind of, hey, Tuesday and Thursday group A comes, and Monday and Wednesday group B comes. Well, you're not really distancing, so you're kind of just mixing them all up after each day. And I know you're going to clean every night, but you're still mixing them. Why not have group A do a week, then group B do a week?
I see what you're saying.
Or something like that.
That's actually a pretty good option, because you're talking about contact tracing too. And so you have one person comes in, you don't know where they go the next day.
Right.
So it's sort of like, maybe a bad situation. You're using the same equipment, but you're rotating it out. I need my own equipment for a week. So now I give you can go ahead and do what you need to do with that equipment over the weekend. So it'll be fresh to me when I come in. So when you look right here, and these are they had some proposed health safety safeguarding. Keep in mind, this is nothing that is sketched in stone. This is just something they put out there, but something that I would recommend to the school system. They talk about the health screenings with students. You can check temperatures all day, every day. You got a lot of people that are asymptomatic. So unless you got this long Q-tip that's stuck up there, you're not going to really be able to know if someone is carrying it or not. And
it's funny. I actually was in a meeting, and they talked about handing out thermometers.
But I
think they purchased like so many thermometers so that everybody can have thermometers. Like,
yeah, but it's not. Think about it. You can have a temperature for a variety of reasons, and imagine, like I said, I've had it stuck on my nose for some other stuff. But imagine those elementary kids. So and what they're saying is, okay, if they get sick, they have a mechanism in place to possibly test them for the coronavirus. That I don't know. Maybe it's something they're working out. But
I'm not sure. But I mean, that worries me too, because now, I mean, there's going to be a real mean, a short leash on kids. I mean, if you cough, you might be looking at having to come pick your kid up.
Hey, you see how people be in Walmart, or whatever. I heard people cough like, what the,
Right.
So, me, when I sneezed, and I had to tell them it's my allergies. I told them it's my allergies because they looked
and
at
they still look at you funny.
Yeah, because I had, I don't know what it was, but when we talk now, me as a former educator, I'm not in the public school arena. I teach at the college level from time to time, but they're saying keep these desks 6 feet apart. So we know just by that you're not going to have everybody in your class.
Right.
But I don't know how Charles County. Well, yes, I do know how some schools are in Charles County. Every classroom is not the same dimension. Doesn't share the same dimensions.
True.
Like my son's middle school classroom, there's an elementary classroom that's bigger than his class as far as the dimensions of it. So, and I don't know what type of desk they have. They're talking about serving lunches in the classroom. Recess.
I really think they're banking on most people taking the remote option.
Yeah, and what I don't agree with, like lockers, I'm thinking, okay,
oh man,
why you need a locker if you're going to be in the classroom all the time? So what you're doing is creating an environment of social gathering. True. So like I said, maybe this is something they'll look at. Go to book bags, clear book bags. I don't see why you can't get clear book bags if you're concerned about safety. I guess you have codes. When you think of your kids going back to school, what are some things that y'all gonna have to adapt and deal with it? I don't want to get a phone call about this.
Honestly, I'm hoping that we can go with this, and this will be the option, and we can do remote. I am actually praying for us to be able to do remote. I do not want my kids going back, but I mean, if they do have to go back, it's just tough, man. Because in my case, I'm sending the kid to 3 different buildings. So now it's not just I got to worry about what's going on in each of these different buildings. If I go into my job or my wife goes into her job, we got to worry about that. And then we're all coming back home too. And then every family is dealing with something like that. And so that's my biggest word.
And then I'm looking at this right here. Now hand sanitizer is in high demand. So if the schools reopen, because a lot of times the teachers, and I know our teacher, I didn't ask, parents to send me stuff. I would just get it myself. But a lot of times they have this supply list. So I don't, like I said, this is somewhere down the road, but you're looking at supply and demand. I just don't know if we're going to have enough hand wipes and hand sanitizers to fully equip the schools in the fall.
And I think they've made a couple purchases and they've been trying to focus on that. But like you're right, you're gonna run out. So you're kind of relying on, one, we're gonna buy all that we can buy, and then 2, I want parents to send their kids with these things to school, and everybody doesn't have that possibility.
Yeah, and you had mentioned something about the airflow, and I know some of these buildings are very old, so there's the potential right there just to get sick by clearly just walking into the room.
Right.
And like I said, these are things that the school system is going to have to work on. And it's not a knock on the school system because like I said earlier, we're in unprecedented times. How do you prepare for this? And there's budget constraints.
Well, there was one thing, I mean, and you didn't really bring it up, but they talked about this. They've been having, I guess, focus groups. They said they had 5 focus groups since May, with teachers, staff, administrators, I think, and some school board members. I found it interesting. No parents, no students were involved in any of those focus groups, and I get it.
I know
it'd have been tough, but you got 5 focus groups. At least one of those focus groups, you can add a parent or someone, because these are the people that you need to get your information from, right? You want to know how they're feeling. So what are these focus groups talking about if you're not talking to parents?
Well, I'm guessing maybe this was the purpose of this expedited survey. I really don't know.
Mhm.
You know, it'd be like, you know, having a talk on women's issues and you only have one woman in there out of 50 men.
Right. So I mean, think, and
So it's
when
like you're
this
not
survey
going.
came out, I mean, they were asking us questions, but they already decided what they were going to do by the time we got this survey.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when you look at this, and like I said, these are just suggestions. This is nothing they voted on or anything like that. But you know, when I look at this, you know, if a student gets ill during the school day, how are you determining ill? Because you really don't know what's happening. You don't know if it's COVID-19. Because if you can't test them, I can see where special permission would have to be given to test for COVID because you literally.
Honestly, I think they lean on the side of caution, and I mean, ill is it. I mean, ill is going to be ill. You're going to have to come get your kid.
and and this is like where I guess I have a problem because most of the schools that I've entered, the nurse's office is in the main office.
Yeah.
That is where you have a high volume of traffic. So now what you've done is you've taken high volume of traffic and you brought in someone who could potentially be sick. And guess what? People come in and out. Now you may say general public can't come in. People gonna come in and out of general. Teachers gonna come in and out of the office. So I think one suggestion is we call the infirmary. You might want to move the
Mhm.
infirmary in a totally different part of the school to keep it isolated, so that you keep them isolated. But like I said, just a suggestion. I don't know how they're gonna do this, but like I said, this and you know people can go on Charles County
Yeah.
ccboe.com and they can get the results of this survey. But before we close out, I did have one question in regards to school because I know for me it's tough. Um, my son, he's perfectly healthy,
Hmm.
and as much as he misses his friends, he's like, I ain't messing with Corona. You know, he'll tell me
Hmm.
that all day, every day. But what do you think will happen if this goes into December?
I think the bigger issue for me is going to be the gap, because so you're going to have some parents are going to be able to spend that extra time with their kids and really follow through with all the subjects and making sure that and staying on top of it. Some are not. It's just like the kids have all these rules about going to school. Parents are dealing with working a full-time job. Some of them have to still go out to work. Um, so it's going to be tough. And I think there's going to be a gap. You're going to see a widening of a gap here where you're going to have some kids really excelling and some kids really falling further and further behind.
And then the other thing, are they going to go on a grade format or pass fail
Oh, yeah.
format? Because
Wow.
the thing that you're looking at, if you know, like my son with his math. Now, lucky for him, I taught math, taught really most subjects, but he doesn't like math.
Hmm.
But he was more engaged because I made him do this, made him do that. I can make him do things that his teacher couldn't make him do for the fact
True.
that I'm here. But you may have that parent that, look, I don't know math. I don't know science. How am I supposed to help my child with something that I don't know? And now
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
saying they don't know for the fact of they don't have the basic skills. It just they may not have seen it in years. So if you know if you're somebody who works for the government and you write policy,
Hmm.
you want me to tutor you in algebra? Unless you're doing algebra and policy, it could become a little bit difficult, and especially for those kids with that have learning disabilities or some physical disabilities, which is a whole
Hmm.
different subject. I mean, in itself. But as we close, the COVID COVID-19 has not only impacted my life, I know it's impacted your life, it's impacted everyone's life. But if you could tell parents that, for lack of a better word, are being reckless and irresponsible when it comes to wearing masks and social distancing, what is that you can encourage them to do? Because I try to encourage them in the most respectful way I can. and you know me, I try to be, I'm like, wear the damn mask,
Yeah, but no,
You know?
it's think of your kids, right? So I mean, it's one thing for you not to be worried about it, but you need to be worried about your kids, right? So if you get it, you may not feel like, oh, I don't worry about, but your kid, if you get it and you bring it home, you're affecting your kids. You're taking your ability to bring home money or just to provide for them away from them, So just think of what would happen if you had something crazy happening, you got COVID, and at the worst, you die from it. You're removing yourself from your kid's life. Like, I mean, just that alone to me should make everybody, every parent at least, want to make sure they take every precaution to make sure that their household is protected, and they follow the precautions.
Yeah, and there's so much misinformation and misleading information and these conspiracy theories and all this
Those
other
are the
stuff.
times we're in, man.
and I tell people everything is fake until it gets real.
Mm.
And like I had mentioned I could do this segment called "What the hell is Derek complaining about now?" The fact that people they ain't tripping over wearing seatbelts, not tripping over wearing helmets when around a bicycle or motorcycle. They ain't tripping over, call them intimate pats or security checks at the airport. You ain't tripping over not smoking in a restaurant. I'm old where I know they used to smoke on the airplane.
Everywhere. They smoke everywhere.
Everywhere, right? But you tripping over wearing a mask.
Well, that's part of the freedom that we've been allowed.
And no one's saying you got to wear the mask every time you go somewhere, but when you're within 6 feet of someone, put the mask on, take it off. It's that simple. And if what's going on right now, it's not hopefully encouraging people to wear the mask where you have spikes. And it's not spikes because they're getting tested. It's spikes because you brought them together and somebody was going to get sick. That's just common sense. And I think we need a little bit more of that. But I trust our school board and our superintendent will do what's best.
Mm-hmm.
Is it perfect? No. But I know that I think at the end of the day, just my personal opinion, they want the best when it comes to the health and welfare. I would just be shocked if someone said, you know what, I don't care if they get sick. I haven't come across anybody like that. So those who may think that way, I can't control how you feel, but I'm just telling you this is how I feel. But with that, you got any last words before I close out?
I mean, it's just one of those things. Just parents, you got to be patient with the kids. You got to be patient with the school board. Like you said before, this is uncharted territory. We're all learning how to cope with this, and that means they're learning how to cope from an administrative standpoint, and we're learning how to cope in our lives. So we just kind of be patient with each other. Try not to be so angry all the time with everybody. Man, it's so much anger going around. Just be a little bit patient with each other and help each other out and wear your mask.
Wear your damn mask. What I say. That's what I say. And because you're gonna be in that situation where and I call it. You want my child to go back to Corona school, really? And these things aren't in place. So you're gonna be second guessing yourself if the plan is not in place. So the school system has provided some solutions. You had some solutions. Ms. Sterling from my other show had solutions, but you also shared some personal insight of how you're dealing with stuff. So, I definitely thank you for coming on the show. And, this is, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying where, if you're going to complain, bring some solutions to the table. We definitely want to thank Mr. Darrell Gray, or AKA Brother Gray, for attending, as well as Miss Christina Sterling. So until then, peace and blessings.
All right, man.
All right.